Here's something nobody tells you about Blair Waldorf. The reason everyone wanted her wasn't because she was nice, accommodating, or easy to be around. It was because she was none of those things. And that's exactly what made her untouchable. For those who don't know, Blair Waldorf is the main character of the show Gossip Girl, a girl from Manhattan's Upper East Side who turned high standards, ruthless boundaries, and strategic detachment into an art form. She was called a villain for 6 seasons straight. But here's the thing. She got everything she wanted. The career, the man, the respect. So if you've been told your whole life that being nice is how you get chosen, this video is going to break you in the best way. Because Blair had the blueprint, and you're about to decode it. Let's start with the question that probably brought you here. Why was Blair Waldorf so magnetic? Not the prettiest girl in the room, not the nicest, not the one everyone immediately liked. And yet, everyone was obsessed with her. Here's the psychology behind it. Blair operated on a principle most of us are terrified to accept. People don't value what they can easily access. Think about it. Serena was beautiful, sweet, effortlessly liked by everyone, and she spent 6 seasons being treated like she was disposable. Blair, on the other hand, she made people work for her attention, her approval, her presence. And that is the first rule of being untouchable. Scarcity creates value. Now, before you think this is about being mean, let me be clear. Blair wasn't untouchable because she was cruel. She was untouchable because she had standards, and she never compromised them. Here's the thing about standards. Most of us have been socialized to lower them, to be flexible, to give people second chances even when they've shown us exactly who they are. Blair, she believed people the first time. And when someone disrespected her, didn't meet her standard, crossed a boundary, she didn't explain herself. She didn't negotiate. She didn't give a TED talk about why she deserved better. She just left. And here's the psychology behind why that works. When you over-explain your boundaries, you're subconsciously signaling that they're up for debate. Blair understood something most of us are still learning. Your standards don't need justification. They need enforcement. Let's talk about the phrase that's probably lived rent-free in your head if you've ever watched Gossip Girl. You can't be the queen until you've earned your crown. But here's what Blair actually meant by that. You can't be chosen if you're constantly chasing. Now, I know what you're thinking, but doesn't everyone chase at some point? Isn't that how relationships work? No. That's how situationships work. That's how being someone's backup plan works. That's how exhausting yourself for breadcrumbs works. But being chosen? That's different. Blair understood something that Serena, Jenny, and even Vanessa never figured out. The energy you put out is the energy you attract. If you're chasing, you attract people who run. If you're available all the time, you attract people who only show up when it's convenient. But if you're selective, if you're someone who has to be earned, you attract people who are willing to prove themselves. People who value access to you. And that is the difference between being desired and being convenient. I mean, let's be honest. Blair could have married like 5 different billionaires by season 3. But she didn't settle. She didn't chase. She waited for someone who matched her energy. And when Chuck Bass finally showed up ready, she didn't have to convince him she was worth it. He already knew. Now here's where Blair's psychology gets really interesting. And if you've been called too sensitive, too emotional, or told you care too much, this section is for you. One of Blair's most powerful traits? Strategic detachment. And no, that doesn't mean being cold. It doesn't mean not caring. It means caring about the right things and not giving your emotional energy to people, situations, or outcomes you can't control. Let me give you an example. Remember when Serena came back to the Upper East Side in season 1? Everyone was obsessed. Everyone wanted her attention. And Blair? She was hurt. Deeply. But she didn't show it. She didn't beg Serena to explain. She didn't write a 5-paragraph text about how abandoned she felt. She just became unreachable. And here's the psychology behind why that worked. When you're desperate for resolution, for closure, for someone to validate your feelings, you give them power over your peace. Take your power back. And here's the part that's going to sting a little. Most of us have been taught that caring deeply makes us good people. That being emotionally available, forgiving, understanding, that's what makes us worthy of love. But Blair showed us something different. The people who care the least get treated the best. Not because the world is fair, but because detachment signals that you have options, that you're not desperate, that your life doesn't revolve around one person, one outcome, one validation. And people respect that, even if they don't want to.
I mean, Chuck Bass spent years trying to prove himself to Blair because she was the one woman who didn't need him. And the moment she started chasing, he pulled away. So if you've been wondering why the people you want keep pulling away, while the people you're indifferent to keep coming back, this is why. Detachment is magnetic. Desperation is repellent. Okay, let's talk about the term everyone's been throwing around. Dark feminine energy. If you've been on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram in the last few years, you've probably seen hundreds of videos about this. But most of them get it wrong. Because dark feminine energy isn't about manipulating men, being mysterious for no reason, or wearing black and calling it a personality trait. Dark feminine energy is about owning your power even when it makes people uncomfortable. And Blair? She was the blueprint for this. Let me break down what dark feminine energy actually looks like through Blair's character. Number 1, she didn't apologize for her ambition. Most of us have been taught to downplay our goals, to not seem too ambitious or too focused on ourselves. Blair? She wanted to be queen. She wanted to go to Yale. She wanted to build an empire. And she never pretended otherwise. Number 2, she used strategy, not emotion. When someone crossed her, she didn't have an emotional breakdown. She strategized. She played the long game. She waited for the perfect moment. Dark feminine energy isn't reactive. It's calculated. Number 3, she embraced her complexity. Blair wasn't trying to be likable. She wasn't trying to be the cool girl who's low maintenance and chill about everything. She was difficult. She had standards. She was high maintenance. And she owned it. Because here's the thing about dark feminine energy. It's not about being easy to love. It's about being impossible to forget. And Blair was unforgettable. All right, so we've talked about the psychology. We've talked about the why. Now, let's talk about the how. How do you actually apply the Blair Waldorf blueprint to your own life? Step 1. Define your non-negotiables. Blair knew exactly what she would and wouldn't tolerate. Not because she sat down and made a list one day, but because she had clarity on her worth. So ask yourself, what are you currently tolerating that's beneath your standard? A friend who only calls when they need something? A situationship where you're doing all the work? A job that drains you but you're too scared to leave? Blair would have left months ago. And so should you. Step 2. Stop explaining your boundaries. I'm going to say that again because it's that important. Stop explaining your boundaries. No is a complete sentence. I'm not available doesn't need a follow-up paragraph. I don't want to isn't an invitation for negotiation. When you over-explain, you're giving people a blueprint for how to manipulate you. Blair understood that, and it's time you did too. Step 3. Practice strategic absence. This is the one that's going to feel uncomfortable at first, but I promise you, it's the most powerful tool you have. Stop being available all the time. Stop responding immediately to every text, every call, every invitation. Not because you're playing games, but because your time and energy are valuable. Blair didn't show up to every party. She didn't respond to every text. She wasn't always available. And people respected her for it. Because absence creates curiosity. And curiosity creates desire. Step 4. Choose yourself first. Every time. This is the hardest one. Because we've been taught that putting ourselves first is selfish. But Blair never sacrificed her goals, her peace, or her standards for anyone. Not for Chuck, not for her friends, not for her family. And that's not selfish. That's self-preservation. So the next time you're about to shrink yourself, compromise your boundary, lower your standard, ask yourself, what would Blair do? And then do that. Here's the truth. Blair Waldorf wasn't born untouchable. She was insecure, jealous, scared of being second best. She became untouchable by refusing to shrink. And you can too. This isn't about becoming cold. This isn't about becoming mean. This is about becoming selective, strategic, untouchable. Because here's what happens when you start applying the Blair blueprint. People who used to take you for granted suddenly start noticing when you're not around. People who used to ignore your boundaries suddenly start respecting them. And people who used to think you'd always be available suddenly realize you're a choice, not a given. And that is when everything changes. You stop being the backup plan. You stop being the therapist friend. You stop being the girl who tries too hard. And you start being the girl you've been seeing in your head. The version of you that walks into rooms and commands attention without saying a word. The version of you that sets a boundary once and never has to repeat it. The version of you that's chosen, not chased. That version, she's been waiting for you. So here's my challenge for you. For the next 7 days,
I want you to embody one thing from this video. Maybe it's setting a boundary without explaining it. Maybe it's being less available. Maybe it's choosing yourself first for once. Pick one and watch what happens. Because transformation doesn't happen when you know the blueprint. It happens when you apply it.
This is the RDream Vault, where we study the women everyone's obsessed with, so you can become the woman you're obsessed with being. If this video gave you clarity, if it made you feel seen, if it made you realize you've been playing the wrong game, hit that subscribe button. Because over here, we'll be breaking down another archetype, another blueprint, another piece of the puzzle. Until then, study the blueprints, apply the psychology, and remember, you found this for a reason.